American music scene that we call
And I think
life.
especially with the Delco Quarantine open mic, I never knew how many musicians that were out there, and because other than the people who you see are playing out in the live gig scene, but you saw a lot of people that played instruments but don't play out live. I mean, they may go to open mics, but that's just like their kind of thing. But then when they went to the open mic Facebook group, I'm like, wow, there's so much talented musicians out there that don't even get a chance to really play out live. So it'd
It
be cool to
kind
get.
of prepares them for if they want to. I feel
Yes,
like it's like the training grounds. Like for
yes,
me, like you, like a lot of people, like we all canceled our gigs, and this is what we've relied on.
right.
Soon we're going to be getting our shows back. People are going to be seeing us from DCOM now live in person, and they're going to say, "Oh, well, maybe I could do that too."
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of this whole page. That is the best part
And
because
that's the
it's
thing.
creating this
It's all
whole new
about
generation of
community.
musicians.
Yeah, man, it's all about community and just bringing people together. What better thing to bring people together than music? But it's also to help train the people that are looking up to. And I never like to try to say looking up to me because I don't think I'm on any type of level. But people that are just starting out and see people like me and you who are maybe levels above that are like, okay, they've been doing this and they're at this level. I want to get to there. How can I? And I always like to try to help those
We're the
people.
type of people that we're like, we're not. We're awesome. We're great at what we do, and
Right.
people do like you said. It's crazy to say, but they look up to us now. That's what I mean. Like, I still see myself as this kid learning guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I never thought I'd be here. Like I'm like, wow, like the universe really has the stars aligned for me. You know what I mean? Like I've Chris Ryan. He's about 12 years older than me. He's like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be playing live right now. Like, what?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I look at people like Grizz, like, Grizz, Faber. Like there's so many people in this community that like I idolize. Stein, like there's so many of these people. Now they're my peers.
Yeah.
So it's like that culture shock, that surreal moment, like in my dreaming kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, man.
I'm really my feet are actually in the water now. So it's cool, So it's really neat to see that the progression. And then you see it again with the people that are just starting out, and then you can see them go through that process. And then
Right.
now like what to do. You can almost guide them. Like, hey, this is kind of what I did. You don't have to listen to me, but this is a good idea. This is
Absolutely. And
what
that's
we
how
gotta
I feel
do.
too. I mean, I always think I would want somebody to help me out in that position if I were in their position, trying to come up and say like, hey,
And people did,
just
man.
give me a little something to start me out. I don't need you to give me all your tips and tricks.
Right?
Just give me a little something, and
Jim,
I'll
Jim
because I
Cunningham.
mean, that's the thing with I mean, going back to the internet, that's the thing with the internet today. You can watch a bunch of YouTube videos and then you're right back in that same level. I did a lot of YouTube searches just to do a lot of this stuff of like, okay, how do I, make this little overlay? How do I do this little section
Right.
here and transitions and all that? But just trying to get a little bit of starting knowledge from example Carl Park, just getting a little something, just start me out and just to spark that fire, and then you're like, okay, now I can go the rest of the way. I mean, I'm 35 and I've been playing guitar since I was 15. I feel like I'm just starting to really understand the guitar, and I really wish I was able to get back in. I really wish I understood music theory when I was younger, and I would always think how much my guitar playing would have been at this point. But I try to say, you can't really change what happened. It's something that kind of just you were kind of just playing in bands, doing what you wanted, but now you can actually take the time to focus on certain things like that. So now I'm taking the time to really focus on music theory and the ins and the little ins and outs of the guitar that so many people take a lifetime to master. Like you can learn a bunch of chords in a couple hours, but it takes a lifetime to master the fretboard, dude. It's
It
amazing how
does. It's
like it's amazing what's like how many things like you're that are right under your fingertips when you're playing a chord, that like so many things are just happening. And like when you think of it, and then the light bulbs that start coming out when you just start picking out little things, you're like, wow, why didn't I just like think
right.
of that? And it's just like so many like good energy light bulbs that kind of just start sparking when you start getting things like that.
So I never had a lesson. It's funny. I really emulate the Beatles method, and back when I started, I didn't really know anything about them. I never took a lesson. Me and my buddy taught each other guitar. If I learned a chord, if I like figured out a chord in the song, I'd be like, oh look, it's like a G. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I remember he found out the B7. He like rushed out. We had the same bus stop. Rushed down the street. He's like, oh, I can't wait to like jam. Like I got something to show you. I'm like, what? It's just a B7. Ready? It does E, A, B7. I'm like,
B7.
oh, it's the blues.
You found
Oh,
it out. There you
like, oh my
go.
god! So it was like this cool thing, and so then I started learning on my own. He actually moved to Europe, and I had to learn on my own. And then I got more into the Beatles, and I learned how they. It was kind of the same process. I'm like, wow, this is cool. You know what I mean? It's kind of like history's repeating itself a bit. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like
Yeah.
these guys didn't take a lesson either, so I just never
Yeah.
took a lesson. And still, like all these years later, I'm still learning, and I feel like it's something. It takes a lifetime to master, but like you said, it's quickly to learn. Bass, I feel like it's quick. It's quick to master, but it takes a lifetime to learn.
Yeah.
It's two different
But
elements. I play
Beatles
bass
are
as
a great
well.
example because my dad being a guitar player, he always told me he's like, if you want to learn how to like put chords together and put knowledge into your chord phrasings and everything, listen to the Beatles and
Yep.
study them. They're the
Yep.
one of the best to
And
really put chords
that's
together and stuff.
that's what I did. And then next thing you know, I'm like, well, all this knowledge, like all of this. So I guess the lessons, like it's like all self-taught stuff. Just through
Yeah.
watching them and like learning through that. And they're the four big teachers. And then it later becomes like the gimmick that you see on DCOM. You'll see me playing like one or two random Beatles songs, and then
Uh
like
huh.
a couple of original songs, and some, maybe a new cover that I've never played before. So it's really cool to see how it's like, it's just a constant radiance of just from the day one to where you are now. You're right behind where you started.
Yeah.
It's a very weird process for me anyway. I'm not sure if that's how it applies to you. That's typically how I feel
Yeah,
about
and I started off as an original artist, just
it
playing
too.
gigs for $20. You get $20 for gas. You sell
Right.
tickets for $15. You get $2 a ticket. And I didn't really start doing cover gigs until I was it was in 2017. So yeah, roughly now just about 5 years, 4 or 5 years I've been in the
That's
cover
right when
band
I
scene.
started actually in the scene. It was about five
Really?
years ago, 2017. Yeah, so like that's what I mean. So I've been playing live for like that very little amount of time, and then now
Mhm.
you see like all of this.
Yeah.
So it's just a very explosive feeling
Yeah,
of
man.
just like what's next? Like what do I got to keep going, like there's no
Yeah, man.
stopping it.
And I already knew guys like Frank and Tom because Frank used to book my band at the coffee shop on
Okay.
State Street. So we would be playing there almost every month, and we would pack the hell out of the place. It was we thought we were rock stars just doing that.
Hmm.
And Tom used to book me a couple places here and there, and so then when I started going solo, I already knew them, so I can go and talk to them and say, hey, where should I start out playing, and give I got a couple tips from them, and then I started networking again, started learning and meeting new people. I feel like I've done that so many times of like from going from different bands and doing this and that, relearning new networks and stuff. But
Right.
you learn and meet so many people in this industry that and you have a bunch of ups and downs of the industry because you're gonna have people that are very nice to you, and then you're gonna have people that are very screwy to you. We all have those different stories, but I feel you're always gonna have.
It's politics,
Uh, oh
it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
politics of the business. So you
yeah,
can't
man.
you can't get away from it.
Cannot get away from it. You're always
It's
gonna have
just
somebody.
uh,
But it's the fact that I never thought that I would really love playing cover music because I always thought to myself I never want to be walking down the street and somebody come up to me and say, hey, I love that Metallica song that you played last night. I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't write it, but thanks for knowing. I would have rather been walking down the street and somebody said, hey, I saw you in that bar last night, and whatever song you were playing, I'm not sure you said it was yours, but I loved it. And I would have wanted that much rather. But after playing for so many years and with the cover gigs and stuff, it has actually helped me write better with my
yep,
original music because you're taking so
yes.
many influences
Yep.
and how these people are writing their music, and then you can adapt it to your songwriting. So it's a win-win.
It's funny you say that because when I was learning guitar, I was I want to, my buddy, he actually wrote a song before I did. I always wrote, like, I was always like a poet growing up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always liked to write, but I never wrote music. So when I was learning guitar, I was like, oh, like, I could write my own songs. So my buddy, he wrote a song first, and it was like, oh, like, you wrote a song, like, whoa, so now I have to. So I wrote a song. It was,
Uh-huh.
rubbish. It was trash, and it was terrible. But it was like I did it, and then I said I'm never going to learn covers because covers, that's not you. Like, that's not what you want to do. It's
Yeah.
like, cheap. That's cheap. So then he started doing Nirvana covers. It's like, okay, well, you really like Nirvana. Well, I really like the Beatles, so I'm gonna start doing that, and that's how that
Mm-hmm.
journey really began. And then as I was learning more of these crazy songs, and the first song I ever learned was Blackbird. I said if I could learn Blackbird,
Hmm.
then I could learn every song ever,
Trying to think of the
anything.
first
I
Beatles song that I
that was the first song I ever learned, like
first
ever
song.
even like
Oh wow.
I even proceeded to learn, like when
I
I
remember I
started
remember
playing,
learning Blackbird, and that was like
and
a really pinnacle type
and
of
it was a
song that
test.
it
It
is a
was a
test.
frustrating.
Yes.
I've been playing guitar for maybe 3 months, 4 months tops, probably a little longer than that.
Hmm.
And it's trivial. Every day after school, oh, you want to jam? No, I'm practicing. Oh, but we can. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Learning something. Because you don't want to say to your buddy, I'm learning Blackbird right now. You know what I mean? So then finally, I remember it was like I learned the song. Like I'm confident enough to show this. So then I like messed it up. I was like, but then I started again and I got it right. And I was
Yep.
like at that moment, and he's the same moment, like, you know how to play Blackbird. I'm like, I know how to play Blackbird.
There you
Like,
go.
wow.
And
Like,
then
so then after that, I learned how to finger pick better. And like, cause he's playing that like French style picking. And then I
yeah.
started learning like arpeggios and Spanish style strumming. And the next thing I knew, I wanted to learn everything I could about the guitar, like every type of
Yeah.
strumming. Then I found Richie Havens, and that's really the first big step in my evolution was like finding Richie Havens. It was like, whoa,
Nice.
I want to strum like that guy. And then I learned, as you say, you want to become who you are. You don't want to emulate anyone anymore. If you get to a certain point, you know what I mean? You want to find your niche.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool,
And I feel I'm still trying to find mine because I when I'm writing I can never say that I sound like somebody. Which I mean is
Mhm.
good. It's good in its way, but it's I guess in this type of day and age, it's not good because you have so many people are like, well, who do you sound like? Because
That's the first thing people say, which is very
right,
strange to me. It's like, well, I sound like me.
yeah, you're like,
Well,
well, that's
no,
cool, but
you sound like a mix of Pavement and like Mark Bolan. It's like, well, that's what one person thinks. Now that's the beauty of this thought, because now you have all these different perspectives on your song that
mm-hmm,
say no, it's a good song.
right,
If people say to you, it sounds like this, it sounds like that. No, it sounds like this. Well, I think it sounds like this.
mm-hmm,
That's when you know you're onto something.
right,
So if you can keep going on that same path and try to maybe roll the dice a bit differently for the next song, because now you have that equation and
right,
it's kind of fill in the cracks. And that's how I kind of look at songwriting.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you don't want to do the same thing, but you want to switch it up a bit differently to where it still sounds like me, you know.
there you go. Yeah, I mean, lyrics have always come secondhand to me, and guitar playing and music has always been, bread and butter. I can come up with a lot of different chord progressions and little melodies and stuff, but I'm still learning with songwriting as a lyricist and stuff. Trying to always think of in like should I be more metaphorical, because I'm always like writing in like I and you and me and all that type stuff, and uh, rarely do I usually try to write metaphorically of certain things. And when I do, I'm like, oh, I think this actually sounds a lot better than trying to be like, first tense or like being second tense with it. But I'm still learning with songwriting in a lyrical type sense. But I feel from my first couple things that I've written to like what I'm doing now, it's definitely a lot better. And like you said, I mean, just like how you were saying with guitar, you know, as long as you continue to hit those plateaus and you're like, oh, I just learned
Yep.
Blackbird, I learned Blackbird,
Yeah.
okay, what do I want to do now? And you hit that thing, you're like, okay, what do I want to do now? And you're always trying to say, okay, what's my next
So yeah,
step?
if I could go back and say one thing to myself, when I first started learning, it was you're on to something.
Hmm.
Because like that being my first big goal for guitar is like, to learn this like very complicated song. Like it just shows you to like if you keep working with that same amount of motivation, like what you can accomplish.
Right.
And like for all the people out there that are just starting, it's like if they gain that sense too, like no matter what it is that they're doing, there's nothing they can't achieve. No,
I
like
hear
look
you.
at